For 5 specific types of retirees, Roth conversions don't just cost you the conversion tax. They destroy ACA subsidies worth maybe $8,000 per year. They trigger Medicare surcharges, costing you maybe $2,100 annually. Or they lock you into paying double the tax rate your beneficiaries would have paid. In this video, I'm walking through exactly who these 5 types are, the hidden costs stacking on top of the obvious ones, and a pre-flight checklist so that you know whether converting will actually protect your wealth or maybe destroy it. And type number 4, well, they're sitting on a tax shelter that could make their future IRA withdrawals nearly tax-free, but they're about to destroy it by converting early. I'll show you what that shelter is in a minute. But first up, the retirees who think they're paying 22% on the conversion, but they're actually paying closer to maybe 30%. This is the extra income is brutally expensive group. It's going to be the retirees relying on ACA subsidies or maybe sitting near Medicare IRMAA thresholds. So let's start with ACA users, people who retired before 65 and are buying health insurance on the marketplace. Your premiums are going to be based on your modified adjusted gross income, or your MAGI, as a percentage of the federal poverty level. And here's the problem. Your Roth conversions will count as income, so they can destroy your premium tax credits that you would get from the ACA marketplace or for the marketplace. In some income ranges, an extra $1,000 in a conversion can cost you hundreds of dollars in lost subsidies. So your effective marginal rate that you're converting at might not just be 22 or 24%, but it could be as high as 30 or even 40%, and sometimes higher, because you're not just paying the tax on the conversion. You're paying a massive penalty in the form of higher premiums, which is kind of like a tax. Now, let's talk about IRMAA, which is your income-related monthly adjustment amounts for Medicare. If you're 65 or older and your income crosses certain thresholds, about $106,000 for single and $212,000 for married couples in 2025, you pay surcharges on your Medicare Part B and Part D. So if you cross that threshold, even by just $1, it can cost you about $1,050 per year, and as a couple, over $2,100. But here's the kicker, right? IRMAA is based on your income from 2 years ago. So if you did a big Roth conversion at 63 and didn't really think about it, you could be paying large IRMAA surcharges at 65 for a full year. Now, don't get me wrong, there are ways out of this. So you can try to file Form SSA 44 as a life-changing event, but that's not always guaranteed to work. So that surcharge is effectively extra tax on top of the income tax you already paid on the conversion. So if you're near one of these cliffs, ACA or IRMAA, a Roth conversion can be much more expensive than just paying for the federal income tax that you assumed. Now, our second type is the retirees who will never see the 22% tax bracket, but they're converting like they will. This is the couple whose total retirement income, think RMDs, maybe a small pension, some interest and dividends, and part of their Social Security, keeps them in the 10 to 12% federal tax bracket for life. And they're about to potentially make an expensive mistake. So for 2025, the 12% bracket for married filing joint goes up to $96,950 of taxable income. And in 2025, a retired couple over the age of 65 can easily have around $40,000 of deductions or more, thanks to the higher standard deduction and the extra amounts you get for age. So you put that all together, and you could be in the 12% bracket in the roughly low 6 figures gross income once you account for the fact that not all your Social Security is even going to be taxable. So here's the trap. If that's you and you start doing big Roth conversions in your 60s because you think that's just what you're supposed to do, and it pushes your income maybe up into the 22 or even maybe the 24% bracket, not to mention potentially triggering IRMAA like we just talked about, and taxing more of your Social Security just to potentially avoid paying 10 to 12% later. You're basically choosing to roughly pay double the tax rate now on purpose. So why would you do that? Now, I can already hear you screaming into your screen, but Sean, what if tax rates go up? And they might, but what we know for certain is your tax bracket today, and we know roughly what your deductions will be. So paying a certain 22% now to avoid maybe 12% or maybe higher, maybe 15 or 20% later is usually bad math for this group. The net present value lens says that you're basically prepaying tax today and the savings will arrive later, slowly and discounted. And that's what's so important about this. It's your future tax rate. If it's not significantly higher than your current tax rate, the NPV or net present value of those dollars saved later on in life can be near zero or actually negative over a 20 or 25 year retirement. So if your plan shows you living mostly in those lower brackets throughout retirement, even during RMD years, then your default shouldn't be let's convert just to convert. Maybe it makes sense to just let your money compound, take the RMDs when they come as part of your income strategy, and pay the lower rate when you actually owe it and when your dollars are worth less, right? Because a dollar today is worth significantly more than a dollar in 10, 15, maybe even 20 years for some of you. Now, our third type is retirees who are about to pay tax on money that they were going to give away tax-free anyways. So if you're planning to give significant amounts to charities in retirement, maybe it's the charities that you care about or that you want to start supporting, especially from your IRA account, this one is so critical because there's a tool that lets you give at a 0% tax rate. And most people are doing Roth conversions are accidentally destroying it or at least losing a lot of the benefit that could come from it. So here's who this is. If you're giving regularly, maybe to your church, nonprofits, maybe your alma mater, whatever it might be, and you're comfortably living on your pension, your Social Security, and maybe a small amount from your portfolio, and you don't think you're going to need all of your RMD, right? That's usually where the tax issues come into play. When your RMD is so large, it doesn't even support your spending. It's beyond your spending. Here's a tool that you have. It's the Qualified Charitable Distributions, or QCDs. So starting at age 70 and a half, you can send money directly from your IRA to your favorite charities. It counts towards your RMD, which is spectacular. And the key is it's excluded from your income entirely. It doesn't hit your AGI or your adjusted gross income. It's not going to trigger more taxation of your Social Security benefits. And it's not going to push you into those IRMAA brackets that we talked about. So for 2025, the QCD limit is $108,000 per person or $216,000 if you're married. And that's going to be indexed for inflation, at least for this foreseeable future. So let me show you what the math might look like on this. Let's say you plan to give $30,000 per year to your favorite charities in retirement. You could convert that money to Roth now and pay maybe 22% tax on that. So that's $6,600 out of your spending this year towards taxes. Then you give the money later, either from your Roth or maybe from another account. Or you could have left it in your IRA and used it as a QCD. So those dollars would have compounded, tax deferred, and then you'd be able to take them out tax-free and send them directly to your charity. So the tax rate on that withdrawal would be 0%. You just save $6,600 every single year. Now, the caveat here is you have to be charity inclined. It's like giving away $1 to try to save 22 cents. It wouldn't make sense unless that's in your heart of hearts. Now, if you're converting IRA dollars that you're planning to give away anyway, maybe via QCD, you're basically just prepaying tax on money that was never actually going to be taxed. So you've essentially made a loan to the government that never gets repaid back to you. That would have been in less taxes, right? Because it's tax-free through the QCD. So your default action here would be don't convert large amounts if you do plan on giving generously. Look to see if QCDs make sense within your plan. And if so, do you really need to be doing Roth conversions if that's going to be the strategy later on in your retirement? Now, our fourth type is going to be the retirees sitting on a hidden tax shelter they don't even know they have, which I alluded to at the intro of this video, and they might waste it with large Roth conversions. Here's the profile. If you're looking at maybe assisted living, nursing home care, or unfortunately chronic medical conditions, you know your future medical expenses might be more significant than others. But what you might not realize is those expenses can make future IRA withdrawals nearly tax-free. Here's the rule that most people forget. Unreimbursed medical and dental expenses are actually tax deductible if they exceed 7.5% of your adjusted gross income or AGI. So long-term care costs that can easily run $80,000 or $100,000 or more per year, those expenses regularly can blow past the 7.5% floor that we just talked about. This means that if you are taking large IRA withdrawals, it can effectively be offset by large medical deductions on your tax return. So you could be withdrawing at a very low effective rate, maybe near zero after deductions. So here's the conversion mistake, right? You pay 22 or you pay 24% tax today on a conversion, and later you need to use those funds on expenses that could have just been tax deductible to begin with. So it's like you made a loan to the government by prepaying your taxes when you could have just let the compounding done its thing. You traded 0% for 24, 22, or 12% for that matter. So it's not a great deal. And I know the counter argument to this is going to be that large medical expenses aren't guaranteed. They may not even be guaranteed to be tax write-offs or tax deductible later on in life. And I agree, but it is just another variable to keep in mind that if you do have health issues and you're looking whether or not Roth conversions make sense for your situation, to keep in mind that even if we don't Roth convert, maybe there is still a way to offset heavier taxes later on in your plan. Now, our fifth type is going to be parents who think they're helping their kids by leaving them a Roth IRA when they actually could be costing them money. So here's a setup. Let's say you're in the 22 or 24% bracket, or maybe even higher. Your kids, maybe they're students, maybe they're early in their careers, or they're caregivers and not working, or just generally not high earners. So the math on who should pay the tax bill might actually surprise you when you really think about it. Here's a rule that really changed everything in this regard. The Secure Act killed the stretch IRA for most beneficiaries that aren't spouses. Now, your kids are going to have to empty their inherited IRA within 10 years. Those withdrawals are going to be taxed to their normal income rates, not yours. So if their tax bracket is actually lower than yours, it's often better for them to pay the tax than for you to prepay it at your higher rate. So let me show you the math. Let's say you convert $100,000 at 24%, you pay $24,000 in tax. Now your kids inherit a Roth IRA account, and they're going to pay zero tax on those withdrawals, which sounds great, right? But what if your kids were in the 12% bracket? What if they would have paid $12,000 on the same $100,000? And that's assuming no growth. So you essentially just paid double their rate for some vague sense that Roth would have been better for the kids. So maybe it would make more sense to let that account continue to compound and let them pay the tax with a larger account balance at half the rate that you would have paid it at. Now, I understand the 10-year rule can push some beneficiaries in the higher tax brackets temporarily. But if their base income is low, or they have flexibility over those 10 years as far as what their income might look like, your kids paying at 12% or maybe even 22% does beat you paying at potentially 24 or higher percent. Now, let's say you do Roth conversions and you die before your RMD distributions finish. Most of the remaining payoff or loss is realized by your heirs, not even you, based on your Roth conversion. So the rescue from this net present value loss, right, paying taxes early and then being repaid through your distributions, only happens when your heirs are in a significantly higher tax bracket than the one that you converted at. Otherwise, the math unfortunately actually gets worse, not better. So here's a simple decision tree. Step one, look at your lifetime projected tax bracket. Are you staying in the 10 to 12% bracket for life, even with your RMDs? Then I'd say it's a red light and not to convert. Step two, are you a big charitable giver planning to use QCDs? If that's the case and your RMD isn't so large that it's totally ruining your tax plan, it might be a red light and you might not want to convert since you're going to be planning on giving some of your RMD away tax-free. Step three, are you on ACA subsidies or near IRMAA thresholds? If you are, definitely a red light. Conversions could cost you more in lost benefits than you might have saved in taxes over 20 or 30 years. Step four, do you expect high medical or long-term care costs? If yes, and this can be hard to predict, I'd say it might be a red light. Those future withdrawals could potentially be tax sheltered through tax deductions. And then step five, are your kids in lower tax brackets than you and expected to be for the foreseeable future? If that's yes, it might also be a red light. Let them pay at their rate with a larger account balance, not at your rate. So if any of these boxes were checked as yes, your default might not be to convert, or at least to look into whether a conversion makes more sense for you in your specific situation. As long as you have documented reasons that might override the basic math, then it can make sense. But the key is to do that math, to do that analysis and ask those questions on the front end before making these huge conversions that you really can't undo. The bottom line is that for these 5 types of retirees, the math is clear. And oftentimes the reason they convert is not based on the math, but it's based on marketing. So your job isn't to follow conventional Roth wisdom that you hear all over the internet. And I understand the irony of this as I say it to you over YouTube. Your job is to pay the lowest total tax over your entire retirement. So for some people, that might mean aggressive Roth conversions. But for these 5 types, it means probably not converting. So if you want personal guidance on whether Roth conversions make sense for your specific situation, or you need a comprehensive retirement income strategy that's actually going to minimize your lifetime tax bill, like we keep talking about, click the link in the description or just scan the QR code on this screen to schedule a call with my team. We work with families just like you to build tax-optimized retirement plans that's going to protect your wealth instead of needlessly giving it away to the government. I appreciate you watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.